Please keep in mind this is a new design that's only been tested on private worlds and one low traffic server. With that said, if you just want the tutorial, go here. For everyone else, I'm going to walk through the design, including mechanics and variations, but first, here's an example launch. Alright, so I'm just here in a demo world, and we've got a full stack of wind charges in here. I'm just going to quickly put myself in survival. And the trick with this one is you just want to get onto the ladder but don't hold forward. And as you can see, we got quite a lot of height out of 64 wind charges. We got up to nearly 1900. So yeah, definitely don't need a full stack of wind charges to do what you are planning to do, I don't think. But there you go. Welcome back. Now I need to discuss something weird. Alright, let's go over here and have a look. So, the original design and the one that works on these super flat worlds is different to the one that works on regular worlds. I don't know why this is. It's tempting to say that these worlds are just busier, but it might not be that. Regardless, the 2 cobweb or 2 powdered snow design is what you'll need to build in your world. Despite that this design with the single cobweb or single powdered snow being used in the following demonstrations. So just keep that in mind. You want the 2 slowing block variant in your worlds, unless you're in a super flat world, I guess. I also did some testing. And this design in regular worlds seems to be reliable even with a few hundred entities and a bunch of Redstone updates. Alright, so I'm just going to build the base design so we can discuss the mechanics. It's really not a complicated build at all. There's really not an awful lot to it, so this is just to make a lock. Sorry, here is where I want the redstone dust, my apologies. And we're just going to make a simple clock, that's what this is. And that back redstone torch is going to keep it off so it's not constantly firing at the moment. So it's this type of arrangement. We're just being cheeky and grabbing out the signal from the side of this dispenser. You can put it under, there's different ways of taking the signal out. In the design that I have the tutorial for, I just take it out along the bottom so we can tuck some of this redstone away, but this is just an example. So yep, previous design that used this sort of setup, I actually used a piston and an observer, but there's an easier way to get a 2-tick delay with a 1-tick pulse, and that is 2 1-tick repeaters. So 2-tick delay for a 1-tick pulse, I should say. I think I misspoke then. And so in this world, remember, we only need 1 slowing block, but regularly would need 2. And then we're just going to place a piston, if I can place it properly, and a shelf here. Yep, because the shelf's in that block, so the player would be here, so there. And just make sure this redstone comes all the way to the piston. So that really is the whole design. There isn't really much to it. Say we had some pressure plate or a redstone going to a pressure plate there. That just turns it on, so like that, or I did have a button somewhere, I think. Here. Right. So yeah, that's the base design. Let me just get some wind charges actually in there. So say also like a button, right? So that gives us 3. We could adjust this clock. So that would just give us 1. I wonder if 3 ticks would just give us 1 too. Oh no, it gives us 2 just. Okay. But as you see there, you can also tune how many it outputs by changing the speed of this clock here. So that's a helpful thing too. As for wind chargers are a lot easier to get now, since you can get a map from the cartographer, the Trial Explorer map, to find trial chambers. But honestly, if you're doing deep caving, you do run across them fairly frequently as well. Alright, so just quickly coming back to this clock again, as you can see, we can operate that with quite a fast clock, with this on 1 tick. However, if you're having issues on servers or realms, it might pay to make this a slower clock, such as that on 2 ticks. Or, like I sort of showed before, you can control the number of wind charges / slow down the rate at which they're fired. So, for example, the pressure plate isn't as insane when you give it a slow build, but releases a lot of wind charges if you have a fast build up, because you have a fast clock. And the final and most important thing about this design is where the wind charges end up. So this shelf here helps align them in the center of the block, like along this axis. There also exists natural dispersion from dispensers. Wind charges can, like, be shot a little bit to the sides or up and down, and they also have a tendency to float up. So to minimize that issue, we use these slowing blocks, and we make this distance really short. And the benefit that we get from this is the wind charges are in the center of the block, which means they're much more likely to shoot you just straight up. Alright, so now that we're back on the ground and have our coordinates on, let's have a look at some designs. So a lot of people have probably seen this one. It's just 4 dispensers into each other, so we get 4 wind charges when we step on that plate. You can add more dispensers in various arrangements, but you get diminishing returns. So this is good for, if the height fits within. Say, I think this one's about 60 blocks. You might even be able to tune it. That time we got exactly 60 blocks. You might be able to tune it to be a bit more precise, or like only turn 1 dispenser on at a time to get to X floor or whatever. So I'm not saying this is a bad design, but it does suffer from the limitation of number of wind charges and diminishing returns, adding more and more dispensers. This is my previous design. Right, so we got 4 wind charges there. This piston stops these wind charges on this edge here. So this design also suffers from the fact that we don't have those wind charges in the middle there. So let's just have a look how far this gets us up. I'm going to figure a little less. Yeah, so that was only about 40 blocks. And so we're sacrificing efficiency to be able to add more wind charges and get higher that way. But I didn't really like that. So that's why I came up with this design where we've centered the wind charges and we get a lot more out of them as a result. Right, so let's just have a look at this one. As you can tell there, what was that, an extra 25 compared to this arrangement here. So we do squeeze a lot more out of our wind charges in this way. I'm not sure if it's additive or multiplicative, but regardless, centering them in the middle of the block does help. So conceptually, how can we think about this? Well, in this case, we have dispensers firing towards each other, so no matter what, we've got sideways sort of motion. The thing is that sideways motion from, say, this dispenser here is cancelled out by this dispenser here, same with these two. So we're losing some of our potential height to sideways motion. Similarly here, because we have those wind charges on the edge of the block there, we're basically always guaranteeing that we get a bit of sideways motion into the tube or the wall or whatever we're using to orientate the player. It also means we do need something to orientate the player, right? Because it's on this edge, and the player would fly out somewhere along here if we didn't have some way of directing them in their flight. So that's a limitation shared by both these designs that isn't shared by the new one. All right, so I'm just here to show you some of the design variations. Over here is the final design that I make in the tutorial. Got two pressure plates for symmetry. As you can see, you can extend and change where like the pressure plate might be, or change this, what powers this redstone line to something completely different. Uh, the thing you might notice with this design is the ladder trapdoor configuration. Now, this does help sort of push you in the middle of the block. However, it's not perfect, so it actually isn't the most you can get out of the wind charges with this design. And sometimes you'll find just jumping into where the wind charges are sitting and aligning yourself in the center as best you can actually gives you more than this configuration, but it's more about reliability and ease of use. So that's why I included it in the final design. However, it is not necessary to use this at all. The bottom mechanism is sort of just independent. This is just to try to line up the player in some way. And I guess the final thing I want to show you is, using a different input. So I said you can. What would that look like? Well, you can use a calibrated skulk sensor. I actually really like these. Wireless redstone's quite interesting. So this one's set up for a redstone signal strength of 3. So that includes like the interaction of shields and spyglasses ending, if I had have actually been not blocked by the wall there. So as you can see, that makes it trigger, and also things like rockets starting also cause it to trigger. So that can be a neat way to charge up your wind chargers wirelessly. And yeah, that's all I really have to say. I would suggest playing around with the inputs and the timings and stuff to, get the amount of wind charges that you think you need for whatever situation, and how you want to trigger them. But yeah, the design isn't really complicated.